Please note that the views expressed on this program are those of the individuals who speak them, and not necessarily those of Portsmouth Community Radio, its Board of Trustees, members, volunteers, or underwriters. Good evening and welcome to Spirit Radio. I am your host, Willie Hassell. Along with my co-host, Lynn Nickerson, we will take you on a journey into the unknown, where the paranormal becomes the normal. A journey to a world cloaked in darkness, where reality becomes a thin veil. So sit back, relax, and join us as we venture into the shadows, the darkness, the unknown, and back. Okay, good evening once again, and welcome to Spirit Radio, the paranormal experience. Ghosts, spirits, UFOs, Bigfoot, nothing is off limits. This is the show where the paranormal becomes the normal. I am your host, Willie Hassell, the gatekeeper to the dark side, your guide to the realm of the unknown, the unseen, the unthinkable. And as always, joining me here in studio is my co-host, the lovely, the mystical, the mysterious Lynn Nickerson.
Good evening, Willie. How are you doing?
I am doing good, Lynn. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, just terrific.
Just terrific?
It was a really nice day today, and
it was.
Sun was out.
It was. 50 degrees and sun shining.
I wonder if it's really that nice and warm in Atlanta. What do you think?
I wonder. It might be. It just might be. So our guest tonight, all the way from Atlanta, where it probably is a lot warmer than it is here, is Andrew Grant. Andrew Grant is an English clairvoyant medium. Somehow got transferred to Atlanta. I'm not quite sure how that one happened, but his career over the past 25 years has taken him all over the UK, the USA, Europe, Scandinavia. He is currently lives and works in Atlanta, Georgia. And let's not keep him waiting any longer. Good evening, Andrew.
Okay. Hi, Willie. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Oh, good, good.
Well, welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
So how is the weather down there in Atlanta?
Don't ask. It's beautiful. Shirt sleeve, warm. I mean, we've had our fair share of snow and ice last week. But it's beautiful. It's amazing how quickly the weather turns here.
Yeah, I was watching TV, and you guys were paralyzed for a while, weren't you? It was terrible.
And it was ridiculous. It's like half an inch of snow. But
and you've got no snow removal equipment. Can you hear me?
No.
Uh-oh, we don't have a very good connection here.
Can you hear me, Andrew?
Yeah, I can now.
Okay.
There you are.
So you don't have much in the way of snow removal equipment in Atlanta, right?
No, not normally, I think. Not normally.
Yeah,
No.
So anyways, it's shirt sleeve weather now, so that's the important part, right?
Yeah, I won't ask what it's like up there.
Well, actually, it's very nice today.
Good, I'm pleased.
Well, if you call 50 degrees nice, yeah.
Well, nice New England weather.
Yeah, we hit 75 here the other day, which was...
Stop it.
All right. Okay, you win. You win. Okay.
Well, I was in Chicago for a while, and that was terrible. I was in Chicago for a couple of years, and that's why we moved south to really just for the weather. So.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, okay.
Well, You have a fascinating life, don't you?
Oh, I suppose so.
Well, you know, I was looking over your bio, and you were talking about the period when you faced awareness, and you said, I'd really like you to tell us about that. You saw figures and colors, and what was happening in your life when that happened to you?
What, in my working life?
Well, no, when you became psychically aware, when you had your epiphany or whatever it was you went through, your awareness.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Shall I tell the story? It's not very long, but I was working. I had a successful business. I was doing very well. I had several businesses and was, doing better than average salary-wise, I guess. Well, it was my own companies. Mm-hmm. And I was working with this guy who we were in one of the businesses. We had a partnership, and he said, "You got to meet my mum. You got to meet my mum." And I'm like, I'm thinking, why I don't want to meet your mum. And of course, when you're that age, she was 60 something, and eventually I went to see her. 10 months it took, and it was an incredible evening. And I knocked on her door, and she came to the door and opened the door, and I just looked at her, and it just felt like there was 10 billion gallons of cold water pouring over me, and her necklace flew off with beads everywhere, and so did mine. And she just said to me, she said, "Oh, Caroline's here, your grandmother, and you nicknamed her Guy, didn't you?" And she says, "It's your turn now." And I was like, "My turn?" And so I ran off, and I locked myself in a toilet for 3 hours, crying my eyes out, because it was beautiful. But at the same time, I didn't know what was happening. I was just like, just all this crazy. I stayed all night with her, and she was a fantastic old school. I say old school in the sense that she had no expectations from it. It was a way of life, and I know I'm sitting studying meditation and communication, spirit communication with her, like six years. We just. Yeah, and I would, the whole key to it is meditation and trying to bring down and solidify and bring something non-corporeal into something solid and that you could work with, And so that was an exciting time in my life. And
well, when you met your friend's mother, do you think what was the dynamic that was happening? What do you suppose struck you? What do you suppose happened?
Well, my grandmother had gone to her and asked her to connect with me, because it was the way she could connect. I didn't know any mediums or anything. It wasn't in my life. And so Margaret, who was the lady at the door, who's a fantastic trance medium and communicator, was obviously being bothered by my dear old gran all that time. And and it was an interesting time. It sort of changed my life completely. The whole course of my life just.
But was your psychic awareness ignited that day?
Yeah, absolutely, from within that very moment.
Wow.
Did you have any idea at all before that you had any ability? Or?
No, not that I knew of. I was 20-something. I was building businesses. I had a couple successful businesses in London. Well, semi-successful. I was building, and I had an asbestos removal company in central London, where I was removing asbestos from number 10 Downing Street, underneath the tunnels under there. And
wow.
Yeah, I was doing all right. And we had an engineering company that my left me. So you could see I was a busy guy. I was running all over the place,
Yeah.
And then there was this, and then it all just sort of fell to pieces.
Well, this is much healthier than tearing out asbestos.
Yeah,
that wasn't too good for your lungs on that one. So
yeah, that for sure.
This is a much healthier occupation.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, so I was working the other night, and somebody. It's a funny feeling when somebody sort of. I was doing a clairvoyant evening, spirit message evening in this lovely place, to the Love and Light Centre. And somebody said, it must be wonderful being gifted. And I sort of like, that's a very philosophical term that I don't quite understand. I just said, well, it feels more like the curse, to be honest, because it's at one level, it stripped away my normality and the life journey that I had on. I was looking for a nice house, success, all those normal sort of material things, although I was never really a materialist. But yeah, so in a way, it's like, I don't think it's a gift. I just think it's something normal and natural. And if I've got a gift, we've all got a gift. It's really very easy to a lesser or greater degree. It's
Well, now that you bring that up, how do you feel about that? Do you think everybody does have psychic abilities?
Yeah, I think, Willie, I having, us mediums and people who start well know, I think, have conversations with guidance figures and all these different personalities that come round, and I've often worried about the psychic versus medium sort of thing. They're very two different things to me, in a practical way. And I think when you ask that question, I think the psyche comes from our old instinctual self, our old animal self, and I think it's deep in our instinctual brain. And as you know, an animal knows that there's a threat, can't see it, can't feel it, but can damn sense it.
Yeah.
And I think as we've got sentient, we've become self-aware, and we can put a logical pathway in our mind and in our surroundings. And I think that's where the thinking part around the psyche has opens us up to these energies and feelings around us. Picking things up off people, and so I see psychic as a very sort of an earthbound thing. In my definition, to decry people working psychically and stuff, but as opposed to mediumship, which is, from my point, because I see spirit, I see these things, and so I think I'm lucky because it's very much more personal experience. I don't have to wonder or ask too much, or ask for symbology, or just using my claircognizant, the feeling. I see it, so it's like a definite. It's
yeah, right.
So I've been lucky that way, and
so.
We have a terrible Skype connection here.
I know it's being. I'm trying to be ignoring it, but
yeah, I know. You keep cutting out, but
yeah, but not your
we'll
fault.
work with it.
I'm sorry.
When did you start seeing spirit, Andrew?
Oh, well, it was straight away. It was that very night. Like I said,
night.
Yeah. It was just, it all came at once. That morning I was just me, and the next morning I was a medium, and I could give messages and pass things on. Just crazy. But my grandmother was like it, you see. My grandmother was the medium, and all her life she was a medium, and as was my other grandmother on my father's side.
Oh, really?
I only recently found that out. She was quite a well-known medium up in Scotland, in Glasgow, and they all used to queue up round the corner to come for a message, tea.
Oh, my gosh.
But it was lovely to have that sort of... that...
Yeah, the connection.
Yeah, a connection. You came from a line of mediums.
Yeah, and apparently it'd been in my family. So I think, I don't know the theories behind that, but yeah, certainly it was in my blood, I guess. I don't know why. Who knows?
Yeah.
So does it ever get uncanny for you, knowing that this is all around you all the time?
Yeah, I love it.
Do you really?
Yeah, I mean, don't you? I mean, you don't. People say that, doesn't it bother you? But when you drive through a forest and there's all the beautiful trees and it's absolutely stunning, the trees aren't bothering you. That beauty.
No, they aren't.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You mentioned something about your father. He could see tree spirits.
No, my father was just very earth-based. He was a tough old Scotsman.
Well, do you?
Sorry?
Do you ever see the earth spirits or nature spirits like the tree spirits?
Yeah, I think that's part of the vision. There's an incredible amount of different things, and without sounding airy-fairy, you do see like things and these elemental beings and the earth energies. I often see like coloured ribbons flowing out the ground, and to be honest, I have no idea what they are, but I think if you sit quietly and look, most people can sort of link in, not necessarily see, but certainly feel that energy, and that's a truism, But yeah, there's everything. I really, I believe in multi-worlds, multi-parallel universes, so it's all possible. I think, the infinite is there, and I think what's happening in the world these days, especially with science converging with spirituality, is like the good old quantum stuff is showing us a pathway into our own physical, I suppose, connection to other places or another life, and or a continuous life.
Could you explain? I was reading your bio and your website. The difference between a trance medium and someone who channels.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because in England, I think a lot of it is just semantics, really.
Oh, okay.
But really, in the English terminology, from my personal experiences, trance is more a deep state where the personality of the spirit fully forms, and the voices change, the demeanor, the actual language, the rhythm in the language, the whole thing's completely different, and you believe there's a different personality there. And I've seen some fantastic physical mediums that, when they've gone into the trance and engineered the evening, but channeling to me is more of a more where you're just letting the information flow through you, and you're actually passing on a message from spirit. And you may shut your eyes, but I don't. A channeler doesn't, I believe, take on the voice or the personality of the spirit that's communicating in the whole way.
Okay.
I think it's a bit of a.
Yeah, I noticed on your website that you say that when you're doing a trance, it's like your personality just kind of goes away, and the spirit's personality pretty much takes over. Yeah,
and I think the whole idea is that when you've done an evening or an experience, that people actually forget that I'm there or the medium's there, and they're talking to whatever personality comes through.
Yeah,
I've seen it myself, and you don't even have to suspend your disbelief. You're just like, with a few minutes in, and you're enthralled, and like, oh, there's somebody else there, and yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, absolutely fascinating. Fantastic information,
and when you're in the trance, and you have a spirit coming through, what does that feel like to you? Are there strange sensations with it, or?
No, it's just like, what, Willie? I think the whole thing's based on losing fear. The problem with the conscious mind and any form of mediumship or psychic awareness is once you can get rid of the conscious mind, which generates the fear from the old lower instinctual self, which wants to protect you from your own mortality. We're on the lookout all the time, I believe, for our own mortality.
Yeah.
Don't know it. But it just feels like going to sleep. And once you can just say, what's the worst that's going to happen to me? Oh, yeah, I'm going to die. And I already have a belief that there's a life after, and it's amazing. So, what's the problem? So I think
well, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I think a lot of this, and I've learnt from being around some of the jobs. My last job in particular was around military personnel. I was a military contractor for the Royal Marines, and sure, I'd made a lot of friends who'd been to war, etc. And war is around, and a lot of the guys had said that they'd accepted their own death. Really? Didn't stop them being scared, but the actual going to war and actually, hand-to-hand combat and stuff, they'd already accepted their own death, and so therefore, what you got to lose? You've already accepted you're going to die anyway at some point, and once you can lose the timescale factor, then that's what I sort of base my whole spiritual life on, is that actually, mediums are dealing with life after death, continuous life, and almost, the opportunity to be in paradise, and we've got this universe. So actually, what's the problem with having fear of it? And so that's what leads you into getting into a very deep state of trance, which feels like there's a few confusing moments where I believe you're just making a rift in space-time, and the dimensions and open up to each other. I don't believe a spirit comes in from another place. I just think it's there. The dimensions are layered, and it's just the gap that whatever the mechanism is. And so you just feel like you're going to sleep.
Yeah.
Just like, and can I give you an example of how it feels? Would you like that? Or
sure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
A long time ago, I was working in England and in Bournemouth in this, I don't know what, it was a healing sanctuary. There's a lot of people there, and I was doing a trance night. It must have been the mid-90s or so. And I remember going in there and standing up in front of all these people. They introduced me, da-da-da. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to sit down now and just go into this trance. And I remember sitting down, and I remember just closing my eyes, and then immediately behind me there was just nothing but like black velvetness, you know, this like looking into a dark hangar behind you that with no lights on. And I remember looking right up in the corner, and there was this little tiny platform with these little people standing on it, you know, miles away, you know, right looking down on me. And one of them beckoned me up with a hand gesture and stood there with his arms crossed. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll go up there. And I remember that moment looking down at myself, looking up at myself, looking down at myself. Looking
You're kidding.
And then I just sort of came out of it. I was like, oh. And then I sort of came back and stood up and said, I'm really sorry, everybody. I can't do my deep trance this evening. I can't do it. And it seemed like moments, you know, and the man who was running the evenings sort of said, oh, Andrew, sit down, please, sit down. Your communicator's been speaking for 3 hours, you know.
3 hours?
Yeah, I think that's a great example. I think that's probably normal amongst trance medium people, that you can get caught out with the actual, you lose time. And when you come back, I was a bit shocked at that because I was having my own experience, my own little secondary life, as it were. But
so if I understand that right, what you're saying is you were actually in a trance and speaking for 3 hours, but you didn't, when you came out of it, you didn't realize it.
No, all I knew was that I was just looked up behind me, and there was this man waving at me, and I went up there, and I went back down again, and went up there, and then I woke up.
Wow!
And I thought it was a minute. I thought it was that, as long as it took to say.
Oh my gosh!
And that's why I got up, because suddenly I felt myself coming out of that moment, that state of
a slip in time.
Yeah, really. That must have been a.
I can't do it. I'm.
Well, you can't do it. Well, you just did it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
That must have been a very strange feeling.
But you know, I'm at it all the time, Willie. So what I marvelled at was just the loss of time, where I thought I was conscious, having my own little experience with my mouth probably wrapping away for hours. You know,
it's almost like coming out of anesthesia. Because you think you've just been under for 15 minutes and it's been an hour or something. I've been through that, and it's very weird.
Yeah, crazy, complete loss of time, and not what's gone on, and sometimes you come back and you feel like you've had a dream, and you remember. I think you remember moments, and like if somebody starts talking about it afterwards, I think sometimes it rings a bell, and you sort, oh yeah, did I know that? Or yeah, it's a fascinating subject. It really is.
When that happened, Andrew, was that being recorded? Did you get to hear a playback of that 3 hours of the conversation?
I've never heard me do it. I've never seen me do it. I don't want to. It's something to be totally dispassionate about and removed from, and I want to try and keep the innocence and purity of it. And I think as soon as you hear it, I think you put a bug into your head when you're trying to get off. You know, and go deep. You're thinking, am I mimicking the voice, or is it really this? And that's what would bother me. So if I just sort of like act stupid and play dumb, and you know.
Well, that's one thing I was going to ask you. When you do these, you do demonstrations and such, you know, public trance demonstrations. Is there ever any times when you just, I can't do it tonight for any reason?
No, I've never had that. I think I go on the theory that if I'm going there to do it, then it has been preordained and it's all right to do. So I sort of had this thought, there's a higher power must have organised this. And I've never failed doing it. And every time one's been organised, it's always gone through and happened and been okay, I guess.
Okay, well, good. I don't want to put any bad thoughts in your head then.
Huh?
I don't want to put any bad thoughts in your head then.
No, I know. I think it really is. It's just keep it simple, stupid. I think that's my whole basis. I mean, there was a time when I was younger, I went through all the craziness of my first year after my awakening, as it were. I saw such crazy sort of dimensional beings and all these people, different people communicating with me, and I think I sort of sometimes think I was just shown that to realise that actually the whole point is to be a human being and just to keep the whole thing simple. So these days I don't really concern myself with what it's like over there and the mechanisms, and I'm interested in the science facts that we have here that's trying to make a stairway of it, as it were, up towards it, if you want to use those analogies. But yeah, I'm very interested in the mechanism of how this universe works, because I sort of got a good sense that there must be some sort of parallel nature, and there must be some plug-in point to our physics rules here in this universe, and I totally don't believe they run on the same set of laws. It seems impossible that they do.
Yeah, it seems the laws of physics operate a little bit differently, doesn't it?
Yeah, it must be. Yeah, I listen to a lot of a guy called Amit Goswami, who's a retired physicist, quantum mechanic physicist, who's a very spiritual guy, and he's just really, he's one of the guys who's aligning spirituality with some science facts, which is a very interesting, time in our lives, actually.
Yeah, it almost sounds like it has something to do with the parallel universes. We were talking with Cal Cooper, and we were talking about this particular incident.
And Cal says very nice things about you.
Yes, he does.
Oh, no, that's nice.
When he found out you were going to be on, he said, "Oh, Andrew Grant, he's a great guy."
That's really nice. I've met Cal a couple of times, and I've been listening to. He's been on some other podcasts recently. I've been listening to some of his work on there. He's a really, I feel, a really nice, unbiased, intelligent guy. He's not got any strong bias, I don't think, which is really important, and open-minded. And because there's a lot of quacks doing this, and sometimes I'm sort of like almost ashamed to be aligned with the word medium and stuff like that. Not just say I judge myself as the arbiter and the acme of it all, but we have our own set of standards, and we're allowed to express that, to be discerning and non-judgmental at the same time,
But getting back to the time-dimensional rifts or whatever they are, we were talking with Cal about, who was it? It was Ken Webster, and he wrote about this computer that he was able to connect with a man from the 16th century in England, and he would. The person from the 16th century would type something on this box of light, which was the computer in his dimension in a cottage in England.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting juxtaposition of dimensions. And there isn't really... Ken Webster and Debs Oakes wrote a book called The Vertical Plane. And it deals with time dimensions kind of vertically. There's a lineal, and then there's vertical time planes. And there are points where they intersect. And that's kind of what you're going through on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I haven't got a copy of that book yet. I'm anxious to read it. But that's what we were talking about. It's fascinating, the idea of time dimensions intersecting and what happens at those points of intersection.
Yeah, I'm totally on. I don't know the story about the cottage, but I'm totally with the idea of it. Yeah, I'm totally totally comfortable with that. Yeah, when I'm trying to work and when I'm doing any sort of form of mediumship connectivity with the other world, as it were, I'm sort of in the back of my mind looking for a mechanism. I'm sort of like I'm driving the thing along somehow, but I'm at the same time trying to look at the instrument panel and thinking, what's the right switch here? How do you get a better message across? How do you, and what's actually happening here? So I've been finding myself as life goes on with this, and I'm doing so much work at the moment. When you work a lot, it becomes a lot more fluid and a lot more. It's just getting the conscious flow. Everybody's on a sort of flow these days, and they're right. It's just about letting go and just getting in the flow in the moment, and get rid of your conscious bloody mind out of it all the time. I mean, but I do have a lot of moments where I'm thinking, when you sort of like, especially in between messages, because I have to rely on a spirit person coming in. I look at them, they talk to me, I'm trying to find out, you want to talk to them, but when they go, there's a gap between them and the next communicator. And that's when I sort of have these moments like, what the hell am I doing here? I've got nothing to say. And that's when you have like stage fright. But when you're in the flow, you feel so connected, and you feel like, wow, this is incredible.
Energizing.
And I'm always in the dialogue in my head. It's like, oh my God, really? God, does this mean we don't really die then? Is this, is life after death? And that's after, I must have done thousands of things in, mediumship things. And every time I was doing it the other night thinking, oh, your mum really is there. Or, oh, you really do know that spirit guy, do you? Oh, that must be real then. This is real.
That's amazing.
Not that I disbelieve, but you just have these moments of like...
Yeah, your logical mind kicks into gear and you really wonder, but then you start experiencing it.
Yeah, suddenly you start... Your conscious mind wants to go,
Well, Andrew, we're going to take a break here. We're down at the bottom of the hour, so we're going to play music for a couple of minutes, and we'll be back with you in 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh, thank you,
right?
sir.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Thank you.
right, you're back now with WSCAFMLP 106 FM in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We've got an upcoming guest list on March 1st. From the KIT Research Initiative in Greenland, New Hampshire, we're welcoming paranormal investigator and ghost hunter and author Andy Kitt to the show. Andy will be joining us here in the studio to discuss his new book, Ghosts, Science, and the Number 42. We will also be talking about his life as a ghost hunter and his quest to find the truth through research. Following that, on March 8th, from the Essex County Ghost Project is Tom Spitaleri, and he'll be talking to us about ghost investigations. On March 15th, we're going to have UFO author and investigator Preston Dennett on the show. He's got about 13 books, so I think we'll have enough to talk about there. On March 22nd, we're going to host local Portsmouth paranormal author Roxy Zwicker. And then on the 29th, Willie and I are going to have a discussion about the controversial Philadelphia experiment.
All right, and we'll be right back to Andrew in just a minute, but we do have a couple of community calendars here. Farm Fresh, the Gateway Winter Farmers Market in York, Maine, is serving up everything from fresh produce and baked goods to arts and crafts offerings. The market, running from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. every other Saturday, is organized by the Greater York Region Chamber of Commerce and held at the American Legion facility on Hannaford Drive, next to the Hannaford Supermarket off Route 1 in York, Maine. And also, we have Spirit Chasers Paranormal of Hampton is hosting a presentation at the Lane Memorial Library in Hampton on Saturday afternoon, March 8th, from 1 to 4 p.m. The doors open at 12:30, and speakers will discuss a variety of paranormal subjects, including ghosts, hauntings, EVPs. There will also be a Ouija board collector and historian. All presenters are tops in their field from all over New England. 100% of the donations from this benefit will go to the New Hampshire SPCA for the care of the animals. All are welcome. For more information, available by emailing Willie, that's Willy, at spiritchasersparanormal.com, or the phone number is 520-869-7001. And let's not keep him waiting any longer.
Welcome back, Andrew.
Hey, hi, thanks.
Hi. Well, where were we?
Oh, just this side of the universe or the other side?
Somewhere in the universe.
Well, I had another question for you. You were talking about you started getting, inundated with all of these different spirits. Can you give me an idea of what it is you see or what it is you perceive when that happens? Do they look like full-body apparitions?
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. What am I seeing?
Yes, what are you seeing?
That's a very good question.
Much, I think the basis of the word seeing is, I don't quite understand the mechanism, but I think I objectively see because I become one with that spirit that's there. And through, I suppose, techniques of meditation and having meditated for many years, I think some of the mechanism is that somehow I've let go of my unconscious mind and my fear enough to be at one with this being that's trying to communicate with me. So I think part of that is, part of seeing is the actual fact of being at one with them and being with the universe. So, but what I actually see is pretty much different every time. Sometimes it's just like a vague wash, like you see on TV, this sort of like, and sometimes there's just glimpses, but they usually walk through that. And when the connection gets strong, they usually come through that and almost like, stick the face through.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and so you can see the facial features. And what I do like is sometimes you're trying to, you might not have a name. Generally, I get names, really, I suppose. Sometimes you haven't. They might sort of show you their teeth.
Their teeth?
Yeah, like I've got an individual because they had a gold teeth here. Or they had. So one of the and they sort of like leaned forward and just go,
"Oh my gosh!"
I've had women, I've sort of some older women sort of go, look, I've got a moustache. Tell them about. They would never. They were always telling me to get rid of the hair on my face. So it's different, but yeah, generally it's a pretty sort of a whole body experience, and it's always on the other side of the room. I have to look over and like, to it, as it were, and really what you're doing, you're just sort of changing that. It's a little dimensional shift. You're just looking in the room different, and I don't know, like, because it was like that from that moment onwards for me. It was like that from day one, so it just sort of feels sort of really natural somehow.
Well, sometimes that sort of thing happens to me, but it's almost all mental. I will get some very distinct mental images of how someone looks, and I swear that I'm seeing them, but it is in my mind's eye.
Yeah, that's right. I understand. That's like the subjective vision, which I have too.
Subject deficient, did you say?
Subjective.
Subjective.
Objective is like, it's out there, and it's not subjective to you. It's but subjective vision is really important as well, because that imagery in your head is communication as well. Lynn, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, you're seeing. If you look at an apple, whether you see it objectively or subjectively, more or less, it's...
And as far as seeing something physically, I've perceived things two ways. One was almost like ectoplasm, and the other one like a column of a cloud, like moving. And the other way is like seeing, you see heat off the highway, a rippling effect going vertically. I'll see that, but it'll move horizontally across the room. So I'll see these ripples of energy.
Yeah, I understand that myself.
Do you see that?
Yeah, the ripple energy. Yeah,
yes.
That's haze effect as well. But I'll tell you what's really important is your peripheral vision. When you start sort of, I suppose, when you look at those hazes, them at the side in your peripheral vision, and somehow, I don't know what it is about your spiritual eye or your real eye, that actually the peripheral vision is very important.
Picks it up, yes.
Try and turn and look, because you lose it.
That's right. But I usually do perceive those waves of energy out of my peripheral vision.
Absolutely, and I think that's so important. So if you can hang on to that moment and stop the natural thing of turning to look, and that's when that energy comes closer.
Really?
Yeah, for me, I don't know why, it just does. And that's when I think you can communicate with them. It's or try to, I think the peripheral vision for me was really important as well.
It's odd because almost every place I've lived, I have seen this, and I haven't necessarily communicated with them, but I've realized there's energy there almost everywhere I've lived.
Yeah. Yeah, which is really cool, isn't it? I bet.
Yeah, it is.
Well, it sounds like maybe you're right on the verge of communicating.
Of waking up?
No, of communicating.
Well,
with them.
becoming aware, I guess.
What anybody out there, whatever you got, I'd enjoy every minute of it if I were you. And
well, it's pretty interesting.
Well, the secret is not having expectations. Don't expect anything from it, and you won't get let down. And at the same time, I think it advances you more. I've never asked anything of what's happening with me.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel that it's a natural part of their everyday flow of life. It's part of my everyday and my every night.
Just take it as it comes and enjoy it.
As it comes, and I guess I think as you get older, you get more relaxed about it, I guess, as well. And I don't know if I had a sense of urgency about it when I was younger. I guess maybe because I think the question with most people spiritually is like, what do you do with it all? And I really think the answer is it doesn't matter.
Well, I think you process it. I think that's what's important, is you're aware of it and you work with it, because you are being sent messages. And generally speaking, they're helpful.
Yeah, totally. I've never really felt I've only ever given two uncomfortable messages in my life. I suppose some people would say they were bad messages, but the actual outcome of giving that message was forearmed is forewarned, and
the awareness that's very important.
Yeah, but the rest of it is just really, a lot of times it's not only guides coming through, but people's family, and and I noticed there's a lot of this. People sometimes just want to go. They say they want the highest high all the time, and like, oh, I don't want my grandmother coming through or my auntie or whoever. And I just think, well, hold it. You're losing what you're preaching there, because actually you're inferring that your own soul is far more advanced than that of your families. And why do you think that? Because now that family loved one has gone to another place where their horizons are wider, they're with the source of information, God, the universe, and they're part of their guidance group again. They're whole, we're not. And I always find it a bit funny, is like saying, oh, I don't just want my mum coming through. She was like this. Well, it's not just your mum, is it?
No.
You know, it's that mother, that life she has, an expression of the vastness of the soul that deemed to come down to this earth for that short period of time, our time, to be that thing. And who knows what they might have been.
Well, you should feel honored that they've got a message to deliver to you. That's why they're coming through.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yes.
I think it, and I think there's somehow I don't know, but I feel there's a big need for that in the world at the moment. I also, people say time's slowing, speeding up, which I don't particularly understand actually, but I think man throughout the ages, if you look back in history, there's always been this. Every generation has had this impetus about, oh, it's got to change and something bad's going to happen. We're going to have 2012 and the 2000, and every generation going way back through history has always done that, as we are now. I don't believe there was ever a golden age, but I believe there is a golden age, and it's now. And I think very important for us all, because we're all waking up to the fact about how we're looked after by politicians and governments and bankers and all this sort of big conspiracy theory that's going on, which I sort of partake in to some level. But it's a golden age. We look at your fantastic radio show, and we're discussing these things openly. We've got the privilege and the freedom to actually say these things. And the funny thing is, no matter what people say, I think when it comes down to it, everybody really wants to know that they live on, and that there is a message for them.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with that, yeah.
Well,
skeptical they all want to say gives the message.
In becoming more psychic, Andrew, do you feel that you've got like different levels? And I'm not just talking spirit, but for instance, do you also have experiences with dreams, with visitations, with warnings? Do you have different ways of experiencing the other side, just besides spirit?
Did you say, do I get premonitions and things? And
Yes.
yeah, sometimes I have a knowing, but I tend to think, like I said to you, I keep things simple these days, and I tend to keep them at bay. I used to be very much like that, knowing things about people, and I suppose what I'm talking about is that psychic level, that level where you could see colours around people. And those colours used to talk to me. Oh, you're pregnant. You've got
I know.
pancreas. You don't like me. And I used to think, and at the end, I got to a point thinking, whose benefit is this for? Because it feels like, I call it a psychic feedback loop, because you could be sitting there saying, I want a new lover, I want a new house, and then somebody comes along and says, hey, you're going to get a new lover, you're going to get a new house. And really all they're doing is feeding back that energy that you're sticking out there.
I've thought of that.
And I think it's a bit of a closed loop. So I stopped being intrusive in that sense of, I could see the colour around them and it's telling me this. Because I'm not invited to do that by them. And I think it's absolutely a point of respect for personal space. Because I'm a soul, you're a soul. And I think it's very rude to try and dig deep into somebody's emotional status and their life's purpose, and so I steer clear of that.
What do you think about reincarnation? Do you have experiences with that? For example, for yourself?
Well, I think it's a prerequisite for life after death. Really.
Well, what I mean is, have you experienced anything that would indicate what one of your lives may have been?
No, I've been regressed a few times, and there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. No, zero. It was basically I was put under hypnosis, I suppose, and there was communication from a spirit through me, but not indicating. I don't mind that I'm like, of course I was alive somewhere else, and like, so I suppose you could say I'm a young'un here. It's my first time.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, maybe this is the first time around.
Yeah, exactly. What's the problem? But what we've got to dump off is linear time as well, because I think I could die tomorrow and be reincarnated in the medieval times, in Roman times. There's really no problem with that. So, and some other planet, and I personally believe my spirit is somewhat incarnated in another body, or maybe me in another parallel universe, in a parallel world. I see no problem with this parallel nature of our yearning for our soul to experience things. Yeah, once you drop the chains of linear time and our own experience here of a beginning and end, A to B, I think once you can drop that off, and then the whole universe is there to be. Oh well, you can't get to grips with it, I don't believe, but I think it frees the mind up into having this idea that So I believe I'm alive somewhere else right now.
I kind of feel that there might be such a thing as like an oversoul, and that within this particular space-time continuum, that this oversoul could be experiencing life in 2 or 3 bodies.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think no. I don't. The term older soul I don't understand, because that infers linear time again. But also you could argue, well, older souls in the sense that we experience creative growth.
Oh,
in our
not older, but oversoul, as in a soul splitting up to incarnate in different people.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Infinite can support that. Everything is possible, not probable, but possible.
I've met a couple of people, actually. There are 3 men that I know of that I believe are split-offs of the same oversoul. So that within this lifetime, they're accomplishing different goals to satisfy the overall oversoul.
I can believe that. Do you know, there's also another anomaly which I've come across a couple of times. I've been on the stage giving a message about, I've got your grandmother Shirley here, and and actually they say, well, she's not dead, but she's actually lying very ill in the hospital bed at this very moment. So I've had a few of them, which makes you really wonder what's going on. But
yeah,
all things are possible. I'm mediumship for dummies.
Don't say that.
Mediumship 101.
Yeah, keep it simple. And the most important thing we've got is to prove the source of our information. As mediums, we really have to firstly prove where we're getting the information from, via a known loved one, or a name from the loved one, a circumstance of that loved one, or a guide that's known to them. It's so important.
Do you often get names, individual names of people?
Yeah, and why not? If you're communicating with them, you should,
I know a lot of people get letters, but sometimes they get definite names, your first letter of names, but you got names.
Sometimes you do, yeah. I mean, don't forget, every communication is different. It's never perfect.
Yeah.
Some reasons, some are clear, and others, some you can really, it's easy. You can give the names and places and all sorts of things, and other times it's very tenuous. And I always said, it's like when you hear in the spirit, it's like somebody mumbling next door in the room next door, and sometimes they shout a little bit, hear the words, and it's just like,
Yep, I've heard that. I had one other question for you, Andrew. How about spirit guides? How is it? Do you deal with spirit guides in trying to communicate with some of these people, or do they directly deal with you?
I think that's a difficult question. I've had friends, I call them my friends, my mates, in sort of like, I think they come and go. I've had 1 or 2 that are pretty regular, and I think you can have like one, many, and I think the most important thing is that you reach out yourself and try to understand and recognise that same energy every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all got them. We're all linked to the whole. We're all linked to our soul group, if you will, and we're all they're trying to get a message to us to help us live our lives better, and to pass on the facts that,
Did you have to go into a meditative state to discover one or several of your spirit guides?
meditation is the most important thing, because the way to fly out to the universe is fly in through it, through your soul.
Yeah.
Meditation is almost scientifically proven to give you different states of awareness, and even some of the quantum physicists have actually shown that meditation, you can have an effect at a distance without signals between two people, and
Yes.
And you can you can pick this up, and meditation, the quiet time, and that's why I studied it for so many years and still do. I spend sometimes several hours a day, and it's training, I suppose. It's a quiet mind, so you can actually listen. Like I say, once you got that peripheral vision, you got to listen at the same time, and you just got to still yourself and get the conscious mind out of the way. It's so important, and it's there for us all. At whatever level, we're all allowed.
Do you typically do readings 5 days a week?
Say again?
Do you typically do readings 5 days a week?
Well, when they are about, I mean, sometimes if I'm doing evenings, I don't do readings the next day. I got set times for my readings and because I think it takes a toll on your body a bit.
It does.
I'm sure it
drains
does.
your energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially the trance. And I'm as young as I used to be, so.
Well, you look pretty young to me.
Yeah, you look young.
You
Everything's
do,
relative, right?
Yeah. We have Andrew on Skype, so we can see him. But unfortunately, Andrew, it has once again been a very fast hour, and we're out of time.
Yeah, it's been really nice to meet you, and I hope I meet you in person one day. And thanks.
Well, I hope we do.
Hope you can come across the pond.
He's already across the pond. He's in Atlanta.
Oh, that's right, you are. You're in Atlanta.
He's already made that
up
trip.
north.
Well, I'm up in Manhattan, in New York, next 2 weeks. I've got a couple of weeks work in the Edgar Cayce Center there, in New York. Just a bit of a plug here from the 8th to the 15th in Manhattan. So that'd be interesting. And
where are you going to be?
Say again?
Where are you going to be?